do you find the right therapist for you? This is a really common question that I hear a lot of in my practice and even from friends and family. Uh, I want to share with you today some surefire, easy tips to make it as easy as possible to find a therapist that's the right fit for you. And by doing so, certainly the hope is that you will be able to benefit even more from therapy with a therapist that you're comfortable with. So, hi everybody, my name is Jackie Getchis. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor, and I own a private practice called Wellspring Women's Counseling, and I'm based here in Minnesota. So, my first tip in terms of how to find the right therapist for you is actually to use the network you already have. Getting a referral from word of mouth from anyone that you trust truly. So, it could be a family member, a close friend, a neighbor, coworker, a pastor from church, anyone that you feel that you trust their opinion, you're more likely to resonate with a therapist that they would recommend. So, the second thing that I encourage people to do also when kind of vetting through a potential therapist that they want to see is to check out that therapist's website. Now, ideally, the therapist's website should speak to you. They should be speaking to you in terms of instilling hope that they can help you with your concern areas and guide you to a path to better wellness. Now, if the therapist's website is just really all about them, kind of endlessly listing their credentials, their qualifications, and that's it, that would certainly instill in me at least a little bit of suspicion like, well, that's all well and good that you've got that experience, but what does that mean for me as a client? So, number three, in terms of my tips for finding a therapist, is to really kind of think about and reflect on who you typically feel comfortable with talking about kind of private matters, personal issues, anything that's a little more challenging to talk about. And what that's going to start tipping you off to are certain personality traits that you appreciate in terms of people you feel comfortable speaking to. So, maybe you really enjoy talking to your grandma, and maybe her older age makes her wiser and you feel more confident in the sort of advice that she offers you. Maybe you feel comfortable talking to your closest girlfriends, your pastor. Kind of think about what it is about those people that really helps you feel heard. And then you can certainly try and find a therapist who has some of those similar traits. My next tip is to think a little bit as you research a therapist about what their theoretical orientation means for you. And this can often be one of the trickiest parts, honestly, about finding a therapist because theoretical orientations is really a fancy term for the type of therapy style that a therapist does or uses in therapy. And there's a wide range of options. You may, for instance, read on their website or see on a flyer that they have that they offer cognitive behavioral therapy, narrative therapy, psychodynamic therapy, solution focused therapy. Really, truly, the list goes on in terms of styles out there. And what I tell people is that their theoretical orientation or their therapy style is really less important, but what is important is how they would use that style to help you with your specific issue. So, for instance, if you are going into therapy to work on anxiety and you have a therapist who uses a psychodynamic theoretical orientation, you can ask that therapist, so how do you use this style of treatment to actually help me with anxiety? And that can give you a little bit more of a sense of what their typical style is going to be in therapy. And you can start to reflect on, does that feel comfortable? Does that feel like that would be helpful? Next up, you're going to often see a bunch of credentials listed after your therapist's name when you're doing some research. So it's very common to see after their name a series of initials or various acronyms. So typically, I'll kind of spell out some of the most common ones you'll see. Typically, a therapist who primarily is doing talk therapy, which is what most people are looking for when they're talking about going to counseling, they're going to have letters after their name, such as LPC, LPCC, LMFT, or LICSW. They all mean similar things. They are all licensed as a therapist. Now, if you, on the flip side, see someone with an LP after their name, that stands for a licensed psychologist. And typically, psychologists are more focused on doing psychological testing than actually talk therapy. So they may not be the best fit in terms of what you're looking for. Finally, you'll also see some providers in the mental health field that have an MD or a DO, and that's indicating certainly that they are a medical doctor and have gone to medical school. These are typically going to be psychiatrists whose primary focus is really on medication management. It's rare to find a psychiatrist nowadays that also does talk therapy, so that may not be the exact niche that you're looking for. One of the best tips, honestly, that I give folks is that you can honestly and readily interview your therapist before starting therapy with them. Nowadays, a lot of therapists offer an initial free consultation. Some do this over the phone, some do this face to face. And this is one of the best opportunities for you to ask any questions that you may have in terms of even what I've talked about so far today, and really start getting a sense, is this someone I feel comfortable talking to? Is this someone I feel some trust with, that they have the know-how to help me with my issues? And if not, you haven't invested any money, there's no financial obligation, and you can move on if it's not the right fit. So this is certainly something I readily encourage. Um, Certainly, even during that interview, it's really important to pay attention to how your therapist or potential therapist is responding as you share some of your concern areas or even some of your questions. Just like when we first meet someone, in everyday life, those first impressions tend to mean a lot, and they tend to tell us a lot about that person's personality and their interpersonal skills. So, if you're getting a sense that this therapist is showing you a lot of empathy, is really truly listening as you share your concerns, and you can tell that they want to genuinely help you, those are good signs, certainly. If the therapist, on the other hand, kind of brushes off what you're talking about, really is more focused on talking about financials and payments and things like that, that might rub you the wrong way and may tell you, that this person is going to be more concerned about, the financial benefit to them rather than truly helping you with the area of concern you have. So finally, I really like to encourage, though this is kind of a Debbie Downer subject to end this video with, is to really kind of look out for any sort of ethical issues or blatant boundary crossings. So really, every therapist should be following ethical statutes and maintaining healthy, appropriate boundaries with all of their clients. But occasionally there's a bad seed out there every now and again, just like there is with any profession. So certainly look out for some of these kind of bigger concerns. So if a therapist is talking to you about one of their other clients or ever mentions another client by name, that is certainly a big no-no, and a red flag should be set off in that case. If the therapist talks about themselves a lot, um, that is certainly another concern. It's not against any rules to share personal details in therapy, but that should really be done at a real minimum, because truly therapy is about you and it's about your issues, not the therapist's. And then if there are other things such as, your therapist falls asleep in the middle of a session, they're routinely late to your session, they're taking phone calls during your session, anything like that, certainly is going to just naturally feel off-putting. And it might be time just to cut your losses and find a different therapist. So I hope that these simple tips have really helped give you some idea of some of the things to look out for as you're looking for a therapist and beginning your process of seeking counseling. It's always my hope that I can make that process as simple and easy for others. And here at Wellspring Women's Counseling, we are certainly very passionate about meeting people where they are, trying to assess what their needs are, and help them reach the goals that they have. So, again, my name is Jackie Getchus. I am with Wellspring Women's Counseling here in Minnesota. I offer online counseling with a special focus with regards to treating women who are on any stage of their path to becoming a mother. So, either going through infertility, experiencing loss, or have become a mother and are coping with all the trials and tribulations that motherhood brings. So, if you are ever interested in scheduling a free consultation, I offer those, and you can look on my website to schedule, wellspringcounseling.online, or you can call me directly at 952 479 0195. Take care, everyone.